Hello, this video is not clickbait. I mean it when I say you want to improve yourself or society, here's the biggest secret, and I'm not going to put an ad break before I tell you. So, before we get into it, no, I'm just kidding. So, the biggest secret, just telling you right up front, because a lot of people just won't do that, they have to wait 5 minutes for the video until they tell you. The biggest secret is for you to do the opposite of everything you know. And at first you might be like, what do you mean? Because certainly there are things that you know do work. I will tell you it's because they were the opposite of some other way of doing things, and that's why they work. Oftentimes we know what to do by knowing what not to do, and there's examples abundantly everywhere that we can just question, and that's all I can get you to do is just question. I do that often on my channel. I make this disclaimer very often. It's like, I'm just here to get you to question your own reality, and what's better than literally putting everything at a compromise, saying, wait, what if I'm entirely wrong? What if I need to look at this world entirely differently? And if we feel like, and I think a lot of people do, I don't think I'm the only one, that our reality and the way we've been doing things has been wrong, or is wrong, then we need to change that. And how do we change that unless we totally rethink the way, or change our actions in the way we're doing stuff? And so that's what we find ourselves doing. We look at health, and you can just look up any health statistics online in case you don't believe me, in case you think everything's perfectly fine. Look up some health statistics online and see the increase in obesity, mental problems, and a lot of diseases and things that, would be quite surprising statistics, things that just keep going up and up and up and up. What's going down, really? And to some extent, there might be something going down that we don't pay attention to because we want to look at all the problems in the world. Well, that's one thing we can do the opposite of. If we're always looking at all the problems, let's look at some of the solutions. But if we're only looking at all the solutions, we also need to look at the problems. See, there are people who only want to look at one or the other. And so they need to create a balance. And how do you create a balance other than by looking at the opposite? Would you ever postulate that you yourself would be ever wrong? Even more than that, what if everything you think you know is a lie? Everything that perhaps you've been told is also a lie. And there is a level of discernment. You may have told yourself some things that are not true, and other people may have told you some things that are not true. And many philosophers throughout history will tell you that you actually know nothing, because even when you think you do know, you don't really actually know. So the first lie to really talk about in this video is that exact thing: knowledge. Maybe knowledge isn't so much knowledge. Maybe there is a level of humility involved in seeking knowledge to begin with, because that's how you attain new knowledge. That's how you attain new products and innovation in societies, by seeking outside the box and critically thinking, and therefore never getting stuck on what you think you know or what you think you should do. Because the moment you get stuck, you realize there's something else. There's something beyond this, and you perhaps get yourself stuck over 10, 20, 30 years of your life. It gets even harder to get yourself out of it, kind of like an addiction. There's a withdrawal, and it's really difficult to escape it. But once you do, you actually realize it's a very freeing effect, which is why a lot of other philosophies talk about attachment and desire and getting rid of all the chatter in our heads. Well, this video is really just to open up your head, your mind, and your heart, because if you care about the world you live in, you care about what is happening in the world, then you will not be so stuck on what you think you know. Your heart will essentially open up your mind because you care to do so. But I'm going to provide specific examples that are not conspiracies, but something all backed by what can be solid literature. You can look up studies about this, right? Not that that matters either, because studies can be skewed too, and Carl Jung talks about that in our series we did on him. But these are things that have helped a lot of people. And why is that? For instance, I'll give an example right here. Raw meat. This is something that I do. I don't eat cooked beef. I don't eat cooked eggs. I can, but I typically do them raw. I don't do pasteurized milk. I do raw milk. Right? Even chicken, I undercook it. Fish, raw. People do sushi. They've done it for thousands of years. In Germany, they have pork dishes that are raw, actually. And in France, they make raw beef for tartare. This is not uncommon, actually, and places like Hong Kong, who eat the most meat in the world, don't have any heart problems or as heart disease like we have in America and these places of the world where they say you got to avoid the cholesterol in your foods. even though your liver will just produce less cholesterol the more cholesterol you consume. And it's really important for making hormones and for getting vitamin D and a bunch of other things in your body, right? And your brain is mostly made up of fat. But we've been told for many years, well, you got to eat plant-based, or you got to switch to margarine because butter is unhealthy. It's got saturated fat. Saturated fat is linked to heart disease. And people are finding out, wait, that's not the case. So keto, paleo is proving the lies of the 80s and the 90s and the propaganda we were told. Eat more bread, eat more vegetables. And wait, vegetables can actually be harmful. There's anti-nutrients. There's fiber that can actually cause problems with digestion, not make digestion better. And then there's raw meat, which we're told is super dangerous and illegal, but yet is healing so many people of conditions. Look up online how many people are doing it. People like Primal Bell. The Natural Human Diet. That's another guy. It's literally his name of his channel. And these are people who healed a lot of their conditions because nothing else was working for them, right? Now, the same thing can go for juicing or anything else, but see, that's another lie. It's the fact that we need to use one diet. The fact that one diet works for everybody. Like we're looking for a cancer cure. That's a lie too. There can't be one cure. The cures are all around us. We find out in plants and all around nature there's cancer cures. Do you expect there to be one, though, for all the different types of cancers? Does that really make sense to you? We do the same thing with governments. Everybody thinks government is here to protect our rights. It actually, throughout history, has never done just that and has always violated our rights. So you've been lied to on that, too. Because government has always, and since the very foundations, it was connected to slavery, it has always held its subjects, its citizens, captive. Otherwise, it would not exist. It serves that function, just as the FDA is a business. They want people sick because otherwise they would not exist. The hospitals have boards and they say, we're treating more people than ever. Everybody is getting healthier, but that means a lot more people are sick if they're all being treated. So people only want to look at what they want to be true, and then they block out all the rest, and therefore they engage in a lie. That is their subconscious, the darkness that they are just trying to hide away from. That part of themselves, that inner self, they don't want to face. That trauma that they don't want to resurface. But it keeps resurfacing because they never really, truly, actually address it. They never do that shadow work. Right? And Carl Jung talks about all those things we don't see. That's the lie, the ability to see we've been lied to. Because if you see the screen and what you're watching this right now as your reality, you will not see that there's a reality beyond it. And so you accept this as reality. You accept the lie that this is reality. And you can't see any way past it unless you can see beyond it. Now you realize that's a lie. But unless you do, you don't see it as a lie. You just, that's just reality. So people engage in consuming cooked meat, and they've been doing it for a while. I mean, not even that long, 100 years, right? Since Louis Pasteur invented pasteurization, which a lot of people can, say is the root to a lot of diseases now. We basically heat everything. A lot of our fermented foods, olives, cheese, even coffee and chocolate are fermented. Yogurts, right? These all have bacteria in them, but we pasteurize them. We heat them up. And now they don't have that healthy bacteria. And then we say the gut is 90% or more of our immune system, and that has a lot of our bacteria. But yet what are we doing to ourselves? We're destroying our bacteria. And then we wonder why these kids grow up into the world and they have all these food allergies, and then they stem it back and they say, wait, it's because they weren't growing up on farms, because kids growing up on farms statistically have better bacteria. And when they're exposed to different microbes, they actually gain immunity. And people who have chicken pox and don't get the vaccine for that actually gain immunity. What's going on here, right? And then germ theory versus terrain theory. Everybody's thinking, well, we have to vaccinate the person rather than change the environment. What if that's a totally wrong way of looking at it? Terrain theory, what if that's actually something we should look at? What if we should sleep on the ground and not sleep on our beds? You ever think about that? Nature gives you a massage. You're putting pressure on your body on the ground. And we're so sensitive now. I can go on the ground and be like, ow, this hurts, because we're so used to being in comfortable chairs and comfortable beds. So I've been sleeping on the ground actually for the past month. I feel like my posture has gotten better. Many people will say that. And many people who have back problems, actually it fixes their problems. Many people do like a foam roller as well. So what's up with that? Is now the mattress companies going out of business? See, there's a lot of these businesses that may not have to exist, like the dental industry. If everybody had perfect teeth because they had proper minerals in their teeth, well, there wouldn't be need for braces and such, right? I am one of those people, right, who don't have perfect teeth. Now, it doesn't make, I don't make a big deal out of it, but it probably has to do with my birth process. Now, C-section versus vaginal birth. I mean, there's a big difference there. And people are lied to. Oh, yeah, that's okay. It's just as safe. No, it's not. It can have a lot of effects on the gut health of an individual, especially as they get older. Their health is very much determined by their childhood. And what if you don't need all those crazy surgical procedures we use all the time that we say are to perfect nature because nature is just so wrong within itself? I say nature is the answer. I really mean it. We really have turned our back against it. And a lot of these ideas that I'm sharing with you are really just returning down to nature. Raw meat, sleeping on the ground. Now, what about cold showers? Everybody says, oh, you got to do a hot shower. Now people are saying, oh, you got to do a cold shower. Do a cold plunge. It's the exact opposite. I mean, really, if you start thinking about anything in your reality and start thinking, what is the exact opposite? You will start seeing a lot more in your reality. But many people refuse to do that, even on topics like morality, where they already have a duality. Can you see the opposite of the duality itself, which is the wholeness, right? Because that's what the Eastern philosophies have done. And philosophies like Taoism and Hinduism and Buddhism, the way they look at the world is very different. Doesn't mean they're wrong, just because they don't perceive the world the way you do. Okay? We were trained and conditioned into our culture to think certain things, such to worship a flag, to worship our governments, to think they will protect us, to think that they're necessary. Just as much as the slave is born on the plantation into the slave family and thinks that their slavery is necessary, it doesn't actually mean that it is. The opposite of their condition is true. They're not supposed to be a slave. But unless they inquired upon the opposite condition, or by people coming to the plantation and showing them that opposite condition, they would have never attained it to begin with, or even looked at it, gave it the time of day. Most people, if I tell them eat raw meat or sleep on the ground, they're going to think you're crazy because they don't have an open mind enough to see the possibility of being wrong. Not even that they're wrong, just the possibility of being wrong. So there's a lot of psychological things that we lie to ourselves about more than anything I'm going to say in this video. Well, here's another one. This one is infamous. Social media. Is it social or is it antisocial? We see it's contributing to the lack of people talking to each other, the lack of relationships, the increase of infertility. People obsessed with love movies. Maybe Disney feeds them all these ideas of you have a perfect relationship. In reality, it ends up the kid goes into the real world and they get into a relationship and they realize it's not like Disney. And so they turn the complete opposite direction. The same way a kid might be raised into a religion, turn into an atheist, or an atheist turns into a religious person. We live with these extremes in our society, and it turns us to the other extreme, and then we fail to see the balance or the bigger picture. But it's all about seeing the bigger picture, which allows you to then see the lie and the truth, both within. And then what truth may also possibly be a lie, because you have to be open to the possibility that you don't know what you know. Social media can be absolutely antisocial, and all the statistics nowadays are proving it. And all the people in today's generation are proving it. Government not being necessary never protects. I said that 3 times in a row, but it really is tied into a lot of these other ones because they're the ones telling you, don't do this, don't do that. These are the recommendations. This is what you should do with your life. Probably the most dangerous thing on this entire list that we have as a lie. I'll put some questions on the screen for you. So they really tie into all these different ideas, telling you how to live your own life. My goodness, it's your own life. Do you own you? Well, I would then uphold what you know to be true. But see, order followers and those who have a statist mindset, they will do what they're told, suppress their conscience, and therefore willingly lie. Do what they know they should not do. And they will not be the opposite condition of what other people want them to be and what the society programs them into, because our current schooling system is the Prussian schooling model. We think, oh, that's the schooling system. That's a lie. The real schooling system takes place with your parents, with you, schooling yourself to a great extent. Just like a practitioner would ask you questions and support you from where you were at in an individualized approach, So is a actual school system that actually educates you and not indoctrinate you and tell you what to think, rather how to think. Fluoride, we use it in toothpaste, going back to the dental problem, right? People think this is necessary. Meanwhile, we find out it absorbs into your gums. We find out it goes into the ground. It poisons the water supply. It's not actually that good for our teeth. It can be good to strengthen it here and there, but is it really good all the time, every single day, long-term usage? No. Maybe there are other alternatives like xylitol and aloe vera gel and, essential oils and Dead Sea salt. I mean, do we ever think about the possibilities here? It's all about possibilities. Lawns are the greatest conspiracy in the world. We have just flat grass and we spend so much time maintaining it, and then we spray chemicals on it and we mow it. For what does it do other than just destroy the environment and look pretty? It doesn't actually provide food. It doesn't actually do anything for us. So gardens, right? But even gardens are unproductive because there's something called food forests, which are directly replicating that of which is in nature. So do you see the theme here? Going back down to nature, seeing that we're just creating these things due to our lack of nature. We feel the need to. I call this the appeal to denature. People talk about the appeal to nature. You can't say what is natural is what is good. Well, we're constantly saying that what is unnatural is what is good. And because of that, we fear nature. Because we justify the man-made nonstop. We say, this one drug and pill gave us a disease, and therefore, well, now that we have this disease, we need to take another pill and drug, and then we need to take another pill and drug, and then all we're doing is masking the symptoms and the symptoms and the symptoms and attacking the symptoms and never getting to the root cause, which is the nature itself, the why, the deepest why, right? How that started in the first place, and realizing that you can't get stuck in this loop of man-made materialism, consumerism, which is very easy to get into nowadays. You're going to see solutions that pop out of nowhere about, you can do this to help your health, you can do this, and some of it will look natural or not. But is it actually natural? Because you may not actually need it at all if you are actually in a natural environment, right? Like these cold showers. Maybe that's not necessary, actually, if people got enough nutrition. Maybe all these, red light therapy, blue light therapy, med beds, and all these crazy ideas that people can do, some of them can be really helpful for people. What if that's all unnecessary? What if it's because there's stuff in our skies that are affecting us every day? Unless we address that, we're just going to be fighting with it constantly, at war with it. But clearly we can get rid of the problem, and then we don't have to worry about a solution. Or we can add in the solution, and then we don't have to worry about the problem. See? It's all just, however, coming down to realize who we are meant to be, which we're finding out through thousands of years of history. Easier said than done. We have to go through trial and error. We have to go through hardships. But there has to be people willing to educate and do the work necessary to help humanity evolve to a great extent. That's why I make videos like this. It doesn't just happen on its own necessarily. A lot of things in nature happen on its own. That's what I'm trying to manifest, to say, hey, the answers are already here with you. That's every leader throughout history saying, hey, you are free. But you don't have to tell us that we're free. Oh yeah, you can now, women now have the right to speak up and actually have a voice in this world. Yeah, it's like they always had. It was just an illusion that they didn't, right? The fact someone's a slave, it's like just an illusion. It never had to be there in the first place. We never had to even worry about it. But it's because we had it that now we make such a big deal about it. But really, it's not meant to be there for us. We create these conditions, and then we make a big deal out of them. And much more of a big deal than we have to. Because really, we're just finding out who we're meant to be. Our nature. And so, there's this idea of you need to do more. You need to find out what is happening in this world. I tell you all these different ideas. You need to look at every little thing in your life. Not necessarily. Maybe you need to actually do less. So this is another lie. We always say, do more, work harder, go to college, go to school, get a job, right? All this stuff. What if we actually need to do less because we're constantly interfering with the nature of this universe? So we never know the truth because we never sit down and let go and allow the truth to express itself. This is what I mean when I say you don't have to necessarily worry. Everybody thinks, oh, you got to worry because, if you're not worrying, the world is not going to work better. I say, yeah, you got to put in work into this world. But I'm also saying that there's a time not to, because the majority of the time where your muscles are gaining muscle after you work out is when you're not working out. And the same thing goes for when you plant a plant. The plant wants to be planted. It doesn't want to be strangled. It doesn't want to be pulled to grow. It's not going to grow. It doesn't want to be messed with all the time, get root rot, and get diseases. It wants to just remain and live just as much as you do. And life is to live. It's not to get to heaven, to get to a certain place, to externalize our problems, blame others. No. Life is meant to be lived right now, presently, enjoyed. Happiness, love, right? And all those things we say we want in the world, we can have that right now. Because the more we desire it, the more we actually may not have it. And that's another irony that a lot of the Eastern philosophies have told us. But see, if you don't see these lies, the lies that you need to look for happiness, you need to look for money, then you will fall into the trap of consumerism and materialism. Because there is work involved. But if you constantly are having to work for what you want in this world, then there's a question as to what are you actually doing? Because you might be trying too hard, pushing the limits of nature. And nature has a great tolerance, and your body has a great ability to adapt. But it will tell you over time what you should do and what you should not do. And if you are open to listening to it, it will give you early signs. And other people will see those signs perhaps in you more than you see in yourself because you're stuck in that box yourself. So we need to slow down to be more conscious. Rather than trying to go so fast, trying to change everything and trying to say everybody's got to do more. Maybe we got to do less. So here are just a bunch of examples, right, where things just seem out of whack and people are like, well, you're being lied to. It's not just being lied to on one thing. You really got to rethink everything in your life. But without the overwhelming paranoia of what that sounds like, you can sit down with yourself and really listen and get in tune with who you are. Really understand that the truth, if it's ever present, you acknowledge that, then it will rise to itself. And, when you do something, are you doing it unconsciously or consciously? Do you see what you're doing? Because then when you come upon that thing, instead of thinking about all the different things you're doing, focus on what you're doing right now. Is that something you should be doing? Okay? Rather than worrying about all these things, I'm going to change my whole diet. I'm going to change my whole pantry. I'm going to throw everything in the garbage right away. No, one thing at a time, right? Step by step. Take it as you go. This is how we flow in life. And letting ourselves flow involves letting go, but also getting past burdens and hurdles within our way. We need to be able to do that. This is change. And if we want to change the world, that's exactly perhaps what we should do. Let's rethink the way we think. And then we will actually change the way we think, which is how we create this world. Thank you very much for watching.